Good morning, beautiful creatures, and hello to you. Apparently, this is my presenting voice. So, today's episode, as I'm sure you can tell by the description and by the video art, is about coming out. That's as gay in the LGBTQ plus community. There are so many videos online about coming out. All of them are valid, all of them are relevant, and I wanted to add mine into the pot. I guess I've always known that I was into guys. The way that I was raised was to always be proud of who you are, always accept who you are. Different is good. Being different is a positive thing. Yeah, just love yourself. Not that being part of the LGBTQ plus community is being different. That's the thing. It's not different, except in society we're told, it's drilled into us that it is different, that it's something out of the norm. When it isn't. It's normal. It's 100% normal. So I was brought up believing, and I still believe, that being different, being unique, being you is the best thing to be. So when I was a young boy, I never had the thought, or I don't remember having the thought, of liking other boys was wrong. But it was there. Like, I knew who I liked, I knew who I was attracted to, who I fancied, but there was something there, and I don't even remember, thinking it. It was just there in society, and it got instilled in me that liking other boys was not right, it wasn't correct, it was wrong. So I didn't tell anyone. I didn't talk about it. I'd always known that I was gay. If we fast forward a little bit to when I was in secondary school, still didn't have an issue with it, didn't mind the fact that I liked guys, but it kind of, that's when it came that it really, really was something. It felt different. It felt out of place, because high school can be a particularly difficult place, especially if you're part of the LGBTQ plus community. I'd like to think that it's been a while since I've been in school, but I'd like to think that it's a little bit more accepting now. Even in school, I think there were some teachers that had an inkling I was gay. I always got on with my teachers a lot better than I got on with the majority of students. Going to secondary school when I went back in my day, going to high school and being comfortable with yourself, just with your personality, and enjoying the fact that you're your own person and that you're unique, and that you don't feel like you have to follow trends or this, that, the other, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it made me a target, and high school was particularly difficult. It was difficult. Moving on! No, it was college. Just had to have a think about how old I was. Well, I know how old I was when I came out. I was 16. But I had to think if I was in school or college. I was in college. I imagined my high school career as literally hell. It was extremely unenjoyable. Then when I got to college, I thought of that as heaven. It was amazing. I made some fantastic friends there. I couldn't wait to get up in the morning. I had an amazing time going there. And yet still, I couldn't be 100% honest with people. It wasn't that I wasn't myself with them, I was. My sexuality doesn't define me, it's not everything that I am. But I felt at times that I was being dishonest with them. So one night, I had a dream. I can't even remember what that dream was now. That dream has completely left my head. But I had a dream, and I remember waking from it and thinking, I have to tell my dad that I'm bi. So that's another thing. I didn't allow myself to believe that I was 100% gay, that I was homosexual. So for years, I was out as bi. I feel like lots of people do this, and they use it as a transitional kind of period, when they're coming to terms with it themselves, or it's just a stepping stone for them to properly come out as gay. For me, it was the thing of kind of coming to terms with it myself. I didn't want to disappoint my dad. I was terrified that he was going to disown me, or he wasn't going to love me anymore, or he would see me in a different way. Because it seemed like my dad always had a chip on his shoulder about homosexuality. I've got a fantastic relationship with my dad. He loves me just the way I am, and he accepts me. I'm very lucky in that fact. But at the time, I had no idea how he was going to react, and I was terrified of that. So at this time, I was living permanently with my dad. I do see my mum now. Obviously, I live in merry old London now, but I see my mum whenever I go back home. Amazing relationship with my mum now, but it wasn't always the best. So that part comes a little bit later. There are so many other people in this world that have had negative experiences of coming out. So I feel I feel like I keep repeating this, but I feel blessed in whatever ways you can be, like with the experience that I had in coming out. Could have been better, but also could have been so much worse. But yeah, so the actual coming out. So I had this dream, can't remember it now, but I remember waking up and thinking, I have to tell my dad this. And I put some music on and I got dressed and I just didn't allow myself to think about anything else because I was so determined to tell him. And that's what I did. So I went looking for him around the house. So I went looking around, like shouting for him. Eventually I go into the library and there's a hole in the ceiling. He's fixing the tiles on the roof outside, so I peep out, I have a look, and I say, Dad, can you come downstairs? I need to talk to you about something. And he says, well, Aiden, can this wait? Like, there's rain coming and there's a hole in the ceiling. And I say to him, no, Dad, no, this cannot wait. Please just, it won't take long. Can you just come downstairs? I just want to talk to you about something. He comes down, enters the house through the side door, through the dog's room, where we have a stable door. So the dogs have their own room. We've got a stable door attached to the kitchen lounge, and I stand on the other side of the stable door, and I'm just like, so he comes to me. He's like, what do you want? What's wrong? What's up? I'm like, I'm bi, and he's like, I mean, that's me just overreacting, but no, he was kind of like, and then I realise, you do know what that means, right? And he looks at me and he says, well, yeah, but I'm like, so good, all right. So in hindsight, he probably didn't think of this way. I remember thinking later on, what would that have sounded like? So I've just come out as bi. He knows what that means. I'm into guys. And then I say, good, okay, so I'll let you think about that. I'm going to go buy some new bed sheets. I wanted to give him some time to think about it. I didn't want to have a conversation there and then about it. I just wanted to say it and just, there you go. So I did. I popped downtown, listening to music, feeling amazing. My heart was thumping, but I felt fantastic for saying it. I wasn't 100% sure on what was going to happen, but I was very, very glad that I got it off my chest. We fast forward 3 days, and Dad's walking through the reception room, and we kind of like bump into each other, and he says like, can we sit down and talk about this thing? And I say, yeah. And he kind of gave me a very short speech about like, am I sure? I said yes. And there's one thing that he said that kind of like stuck with me, and I didn't understand until a few years later. I didn't really get what he meant. And he said to me, I just don't want you to get hurt. And at the time, it didn't really make sense until I realised, oh, he wasn't talking about like in relationships or the family or anything like that. He was talking about society in general. My dad's from a different generation, so he might not necessarily understand it. He might not get it, but he accepted it. So we fast forward again a few years. There was a while where I didn't really talk to my mum that much. That's a whole different story. I was with my ex-boyfriend, and at the time we had been together for 6 months, and he wanted to meet my family, and I wanted him to meet my family as well. How old was I at that point? I must have been, I don't know, 23, 24, something like that. When did I tell the rest of my family? Can anyone remember when I told the rest of my family that I was into dudes? But anyway, so I'd never told either one of my parents or any of my family that I'd had a boyfriend before. I remember texting my dad, because obviously London, Yorkshire, text my dad that I have a boyfriend and want him to meet him. And he didn't text me back all day. Oh my god, I went out of my mind. I was going crazy. He texted me back in the evening at like 10 o'clock in the evening. And he was like, "Oh yeah, cool, amazing. Sorry about the late reply. My phone's been off all day. Cheers, Dad. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Dad." Whereas my mum, I hadn't texted her in quite a while, and I kind of told her that I had a boyfriend and that he wanted to meet her, and I hadn't even told her. That was basically how I came out to my mum. And whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's probably a little bit of both. She told me later it was a shock to her, or maybe not a shock. Did she say a shock? I can't remember. But she said she had a little cry, which I knew for a fact. If like I knew that she would have done that if I had told her in person. I knew that she would have cried, and I'd have been like, "Oh God, it's like I'm not dead. I'm just gay." My grandma, who I'm really close to as well, just, what did she say now? I think she said something like, "Oh yeah, we saw it coming," or it was, you'd have to ask her about that. And that's that was how I actually, like, how I came out to the people closest to me in my life, my blood kin. But obviously, family doesn't always mean blood. And blood doesn't always mean family. So yeah, those are my coming out stories. Everyone deserves to be who they are and deserves to be honest about who they find beautiful and who they fall in love with, because how can love be a bad thing? Yeah, that's it. How can love be a bad thing? I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please, if you've got any suggestions for videos, leave them in the comments below. Boom. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, and I shall see you next time.